The evening air in Manila was thick with noise, car horns, chatter, and the hum of the city, but through it all rose a sound so pure that people slowed their steps to listen. On a dimly lit street corner stood a barefoot boy named Arnel, no older than 12, his small frame bent slightly over a worn-out guitar. The instrument had only 5 strings, its wood cracked from years of weather and use, yet in his hands, it produced something magical. His voice carried the ache of longing and the innocence of hope, singing English lyrics he had learned from listening to old radios outside shops. The song was Hotel California, and though he didn't fully understand its meaning, he sang it like it was a story of his own life, of dreams trapped behind invisible walls. Passers-by moved quickly, some dropping coins into the rusted tin at his feet, others not even glancing his way. His mother watched from a nearby bench, her eyes tired but proud. Every note he sang was a promise, that one day, this life of noise, hunger, and dust would change. When a small crowd gathered, Arnel smiled shyly but never stopped singing. In that brief moment, the world seemed to pause, and for those who listened, the city's chaos faded away. He wasn't just a poor boy with a broken guitar, he was a voice fighting to be heard, a dream rising above the sound of the streets. The next morning, the same street corner buzzed with the usual rhythm of the city, vendors shouting, jeepneys rumbling, and children running barefoot through puddles. But for Arnel, something felt different. His guitar lay beside him as he sang softly, unaware that the night before, a tourist had filmed his performance and shared it online. By sunrise, the video had spread across social media, millions of views, thousands of comments, and messages from around the world. Somewhere between the noise of traffic and the calls of street vendors, Arnel's name had become known. As he finished a song, a man in a suit approached him, holding a phone. "Is your name Arnel?" the man asked with a kind smile. Arnel nodded nervously. The man showed him his video, and said, "You've been invited to audition for the global talent show here in Manila. They saw your voice online. They want you." For a moment, Arnel couldn't speak. His mother, overhearing, came running, wiping her hands on her apron, disbelief written on her face. Tears welled in her eyes as she held him tight. "You did it, Anak," she whispered, her voice trembling. The noise of the city seemed to disappear. For years, Arnel had sung for coins, for food, for hope. Now, the world wanted to hear him sing. It wasn't just luck, it was a dream answering back after years of silence, a small miracle born from a song on the streets. The bright lights of the global talent show stage felt blinding as Arnel stepped forward, clutching his old guitar. His feet were still bare, his clothes simple and clean, freshly washed by his mother that morning. The audience murmured quietly, some whispering at the sight of the small boy from the viral video. The judges looked curious but skeptical, they had seen many hopefuls before. Arnel stood at the microphone, heart pounding so hard he could hear it echo in his ears. When one judge asked, "What will you be singing today?" he answered softly, "Hotel California, sir." A few polite smiles followed, and then silence fell. Arnel took a deep breath and began to play. At first, his hands trembled on the strings, the opening chords a little shaky. But as his voice filled the auditorium, something shifted. The nervousness melted away, replaced by a sound that was pure and soulful, a voice that carried both pain and hope. Every lyric seemed to come from deep inside him, as if he was telling the story of his own life through the song. The crowd grew still, the judges leaned forward. There was no fancy stage act, no background music, only a barefoot boy and his broken guitar commanding the room. When he reached the final chorus, his voice cracked with emotion, but it made the song even more real. By the time he finished, the hall was silent, and everyone could feel it, something extraordinary had just happened. For a few seconds after the final note faded, the entire auditorium stayed silent. Arnel stood motionless under the bright lights, his small hands still clutching the guitar, eyes glistening with tears. He thought he had failed, that maybe they didn't like it. But then, a single clap echoed through the hall. One of the judges stood, her eyes filled with emotion. "That," she whispered, voice trembling, "was the most heartfelt version of that song I've ever heard." The audience erupted in applause, the sound growing louder, wave after wave of cheers washing over the stage. Arnel blinked in disbelief, looking around as people rose to their feet. And then it happened, the judge reached out and slammed the golden buzzer. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Gold confetti burst from above, raining down like a shower of stars. Arnel gasped, covering his mouth, unable to move as tears streamed down his face. His mother, watching from backstage, cried openly, her hands pressed over her heart. The judges stood and applauded, some wiping their eyes, completely moved by the purity of his voice and the story it carried. One of them said, "You didn't just sing a song, you told the world what it means to dream." The crowd chanted his name, Arnel. Arnel. As he stood in awe, his dream finally meeting reality in a golden storm of light, love, and music. Backstage, after the lights dimmed and the crowd's cheers faded, Arnel sat quietly on a bench, still covered in golden confetti. His guitar rested beside him, its cracks now sparkling with bits of gold dust. A producer knelt down and asked gently, "How do you feel, Arnel?" He hesitated, his voice soft but steady. "I just wanted to make my mama proud," he said. "I used to sing on the street so we could eat. I never thought the world would listen." His mother hugged him tightly, tears falling onto his shoulder. Around them, crew members smiled, moved by his simple honesty. Outside, cameras flashed, and people cheered his name as he walked out of the studio. He looked up at the night sky, the same sky that had watched him sing on the streets. Everything had changed, yet, in his heart, he was still the same boy who sang because it made him feel free. That night, his story spread even further across the world, touching millions of hearts. People shared his performance not just because of his voice, but because of the hope it carried. He had become more than a viral moment, he was a reminder that dreams don't belong to the rich or the lucky, but to anyone brave enough to keep believing. As Arnel and his mother walked home hand in hand, she whispered, "You did it, Anik." And for the first time, Arnel smiled knowing, he really had.